Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. That is, of course, where you can find all of the archives for Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. You can also find the daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News. That is also there at fppradio.com. As is the longest running of the 3 podcasts that I currently do, the FPP Freedom Minute. That is coming up on 4 years old. I've been doing that one since August of 2011. The next episode of that, which gets recorded on Sunday, will be episode 200. So, yeah, coming up on 4 years for that one. And approaching, I believe, episode 500 for the daily newscast, and coming up fairly quickly on episode 200 of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, and I'm hoping to change something up just a little bit with the podcast after episode 200. It's not going to be anything that's going to be a major change. So there's not like a format change, but I'm hoping to get a couple of new music beds, a couple new intro beds to introduce the show at the very beginning. But, you know, it's not anything that's going to like really change anything other than, you know, the beginning of the show might sound just a little bit different. Still working out the details on that. But let me jump into the news, because I've got some interesting stories. And one of these I had not planned on talking about. Actually, none of the stories that I had planned on talking about, because the way I do my show is, this is sort of, you know, like background into podcasting. What I'll do is throughout the week, as I read news stories, I'll put them in various show prep folders. And then the day that I'm recording, whether it be Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, although generally on Wednesday I'm researching things for the Ask Me Anything. And by the way, if you have questions for that, you can email those, ama@fppradio.com. And yes, I will answer your question about anything. I talked about B-Sex for about 10 minutes on Wednesday. So yes, I will answer your question on just about anything. But I was going through some of the email lists that I'm subscribed to, related to like various free speech stuff and book publishing. And one of the stories that was in one of these lists was about a woman in Tehran. Tehran being the capital of Iran. And, well, the headline here is, "No books, no book fair," says publisher of banned books. And I started thinking, wait a second, like Banned Books Week is later in the year, but what's this about? Well, let me just go ahead and jump into the story here. This comes from the International Campaign for Human Rights in Iran. Iranian publisher Shala Lahiji has boycotted the annual Tehran International Book Fair for the 4th year running to protest the government's refusal to issue licenses to her publishing house. You heard that correctly. The Iranian government is refusing to issue licenses to this publishing company. And that's something that we sort of take for granted here in the U.S., where, you know, yes, we're not the freest country by any stretch of the imagination. And if you look at the index of press freedom, we're not even in like the top 30. I think it's about 46th, 49th now is where the U.S. ranks globally on press freedom, like 49 out of 180-something countries that are ranked. But, you know, I don't have to go apply for a government license before I can publish a book. I send the files to a printer, and they print the books. And, of course, you know, there are various ways that you can go about publishing a book. And if you come to PorkFest, then I'm actually giving a presentation on, I believe it's the Thursday of PorcFest at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, How to Be the Media. And I gave this presentation last year. There's, a little bit new info that I'll have, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty much the same thing as last year. So if you attended last year, then, show up this year and, during the Q&A, if you've got some info that I don't cover, feel free to throw that in, because I'm not going to be strict on it must be a question. Although what I could do is what I've heard at some of the legislative hearings that I go to, where somebody will just start rambling and the chair of the committee says, is there a question in there somewhere? And then the legislator says, would you believe all that stuff that I just said? So that's how you could turn it into a question. Just give a rant and then at the end say, would you believe that? And, well, yes, I would. So anyway, the whole thing about getting a license to publish a book just seems absolutely, no pun intended here, but it seems foreign to me. The publisher Shala Lahiji told the International Campaign for Human Rights in Iran, since 2014, I have suggested 55 books for publication, but none of them have been issued a license. We voted for Mr. Rouhani to pay attention to the cultural situation of the country in keeping with his campaign slogans, but it seems nothing has changed, at least not in my case. The Tehran International Book Fair is the most major publishing event in Iran, and this marks the 28th year of the fair. Lahaji told the campaign, either I'm an undesirable individual or my books are undesirable. I'm sure that none of the 55 books have a problem. After all these years, I recognize the red lines, and I know which books I should suggest for publication. Some of them are written by Iranian authors, and some are translated, and some of them are very important theoretical books about women-related issues. Lahaji is the first female publisher in Iran. She established the Russian Gavran Publishing House in 1983, and her publishing company received the PEN, that's P-E-N, all capitals, the PEN International Prize in the United States, and the Pandora Prize in the United Kingdom in 2001. With more than 30 years' experience in the field of publishing, she told the campaign that she has refused to attend the Tehran International Book Fair since 2012. Quote, why should I participate when they still ban books without any legitimate reasons? They had promised not to remove any books from the book fair and not to close down any booths, but they shut down booths and banned books again. I expected these events. I gave up the good income I could have made at the book fair. I gave it up so I won't be witness to such disrespect. This year's 10-day Tehran Book Fair has been in progress. They say it's been in progress since May 7th, but obviously that was well over a month ago. So the book fair lasted from May 7th till probably May 17th. During the first 2 days, 10 books were removed from the exhibition, and 29 booths were shut down on May 10th. There's more when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Did you ever think books? Did you ever think they'd be bad? Well, they are all over the world. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to give away my newest book. Yes, you heard that right. I want to give away my newest book, A Rebel's Journey. The book describes my path to the ideas of liberty, which began as a search for traditional values. I will only give away the book if I reach my fundraising goal of $2,500.
But wait, there's more!
If you donate, not only can you get the ebook and the audiobook for free, but you can get bonus audio content, including interviews with Jeffrey Tucker, Lynn Albrecht, Ben Stone, Gardner Goldsmith, and Stephen Kinsella. Or you can get a signed copy of the paperback book and more. Your donation will serve to replace the profits I would have earned through a more traditional publication of the book. The funds raised will allow me to get the book into the hands of more people and to promote the book to a wider audience. To find out more about the book or to donate, visit arebelsjourney.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So, jumping back into the article here about the publisher in Iran who is boycotting the Tehran, or did boycott the Tehran International Book Fair because the government of Iran refuses to grant licenses for books that she wishes to publish. The Tehran Book Fair took place, 10-day event began May 7th, so it's over. 2 days into the event, 10 books were removed, even though the government of Iran said, we're not going to remove books or shut down booths. 10 books were removed and 29 booths were shut down. The Committee to Review Publishers' Violations, which was present at the fair, said the reasons for the closure was presenting and selling books by other publishers, which seems like a rather odd reason to shut down a book publishing booth at a book publishing convention. The story here continues. It says, among the banned books are books written by political authors and poets and books with critical content. Also, an English book titled A Critical Introduction to Khomeini, written by Afshin Adib Magdaham, a professor in global thought and comparative philosophies and chair of the Center for Iranian Studies at SAOS, University of London, published by Cambridge University Press, was collected and banned from the book fair. Regarding the closure of the 29 booths in one day, Shala Lahiji told the campaign, the excuse they offer, presenting and selling books by other publishers, is unacceptable. The organization that collected the books and shut down the booths was not related to the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance. All we tell them, if you should enforce the laws you have set for book publishing yourselves, when you give a license for publishing a book, why should you remove it from the book fair or shut down the presenting booth? And again, the whole concept of getting a license to be able to publish a book is just a complete foreign concept to me, because that is not at all how things happen in the U.S. And as far as I know, that's not how it happens in Canada or the UK or anywhere in Europe. So this is just like a completely distinct thing that it's hard for me to wrap my head around, is basically what I'm saying here. The article continues, Iran's Minister of Culture and Islamic Guidance, Ali Jannati, said on May 8th that all publishers are able to participate in the book fair this year, stating that there were more than 50 publishers who were banned from the book fair in 2012. He said that no publishers were banned from this year's book fair. Although on the third day of the fair, they kicked 29 publishers out because they were selling somebody else's books. And there's a little bit more here in the article, but it just sort of rehashes and gives the names of some of the publishing companies. And like, it's not really important who the publishing companies were. What's important here is that you've got somebody that basically, is acting as a government authority that's telling people that they can't publish certain books, they can't sell certain books in a book publishing fair. And, well, if you want to sell this, then you can't do it in Iran because we said so and we didn't give you a license to do that. Now, let's go from this, which is basically, you need to jump through all of these hoops and hurdles before you can do what you should be allowed to do anyway, to presidential debates. And I realize that sounds like it's not really connected, but in a way it kind of is. But again, this isn't necessarily a podcast where everything is connected. But the reason that I think that these two are kind of in some way connected is that in presidential debates, you have some entity that's essentially acting as a pseudo-government agency, the Commission on Presidential Debates, where they work hand in hand with the Republican and Democratic parties to basically keep out everybody that's not a Republican or a Democrat, except for that one time in 1992 when they allowed Ross Perot to get into the debates, but then they never allowed anybody else since, ever. But basically what this is, you've got this group, the CPD, Commission on Presidential Debates, that was formed in 1987 by a group of Republicans and a group of Democrats claiming to be a nonpartisan entity. However, there's not been anybody that's headed up the CPD that was not a former chair of either the Republican or Democratic parties. They put up all of these hoops and hurdles before candidates are allowed to debate in the main presidential debates, where basically it's this dog and pony show of a Republican and a Democrat answering questions that they agreed to beforehand, and pretty much everything about this thing is scripted. It's not an actual debate at all. It's completely scripted, and it's, given the appearance of a debate. But the article that I'm about to read isn't even talking about the main presidential debates. It's talking about the primary debates, where the Republicans, right now, they've got, some astronomical number of people that are running, and most likely there's going to be about 15 candidates that qualify for the first 13 primary or caucus ballots. And, well, the news networks, they're having a tough time trying to figure out who is actually going to be allowed to debate and how they decide and whatnot. Well, there's an article here it's republished on yahoo.com. I don't know if this is original content to Yahoo or if it's republished from somewhere else, but the author is someone by the name of Matt Bai. And he writes, now that we know the number of Republicans running for president this year is exponentially higher than the number of voters Rick Santorum can lure into a room in Iowa, the media that sponsors debates are freaking out. And if you don't catch the reference to the number of people that Rick Santorum can lure into a room in Iowa, he had a campaign event a few days ago. And aside from Rick Santorum and the people that work for Rick Santorum that were there was one person in attendance sitting there waiting to see Rick Santorum. So Rick Santorum held a campaign event, was able to lure one person, and yes, there's many more than just one people running for the Republican nomination. The article here continues. It says, Fox News, which will hold the first debate in August, has started the ball rolling by announcing it intends to exclude any candidate who does not place among the top 10 in national polls. Which is fine by me, he writes, as long as we poll continuously throughout the debate, so that if Mike Huckabee inadvertently says something sane and slips into 11th place, a couple of guys emerge and rudely yank him off the stage mid-sentence and install Carly Fiorina in his place. Santorum and other Republican candidates who are polling near the bottom of the pack are howling in protest at the plan, but they shouldn't. And I'll tell you why when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, ExpressCoin, and Amazon, at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Before I continue here telling you why polls should not at all be involved in political debates, and I've not even gotten to that point of the article, but I will get there. But before I continue with the article here, I want to make sure that I tell you about Liberty.me. Liberty.me, it's a social media type website that's a lot more than just social media. So most of the time when you think social media, you think Facebook, Twitter. Some people might still think MySpace. Others might think of Google+. But Liberty.me, it's like that, but a lot better. And it incorporates blogging, publishing sites. So it takes stuff from WordPress. It takes stuff from traditional social media, and then there are chat rooms, there's groups, there are forums, basically a old school bulletin board sort of thing, and there are free ebooks and free Liberty guides. And Liberty guides are similar to an ebook but slightly different. And if you sign up for Liberty.me, yes, it is a paid service. But because it's a paid service, you don't really have to deal with the internet trolls, because internet trolls don't want to have to pay to be an internet troll. So if you sign up, Liberty.me, use code FPP Radio, and I believe that saves you some money on the monthly fee that they have. So Liberty.me, code FPP Radio. So back to the article here from Yahoo, and let me just sort of back up a little bit. He is talking about the way Fox News is planning to select the candidates for their first debate in August, where Fox is saying that they will take the top 10 candidates according to national polls, and some of the candidates, such as Rick Santorum, who are near that cutoff, they're not happy about it. But the author of this article says that they shouldn't be howling in protest because, he writes, if you're a conservative challenger who hasn't yet managed to elbow your way into the conversation, I'd argue that getting shut out of the first few debates might actually be the first good thing to happen. Before I explain why, let me just say, all kidding aside, that Santorum is right about this much. Polls have no business in the debate process, and anyone who thinks they do has forgotten what debates are about in the first place. And I'm glad he's saying this, and I hope he says the same thing when it comes time for the main presidential debates in the fall, where more than likely there's just going to be a Republican and a Democrat, and that's about it. Even though the CPD is having, they're taking input from people to try to, refigure whatever criteria they have, and they might wind up doing something, but probably not. And, it seems to me that, well, we're taking suggestions, and, we decided we didn't like any of the suggestions, so we're just going to do what we do. That's probably what's going to happen, or at least that's my thoughts on what's going to happen. Hopefully I'm wrong. But he continues here. He says, at this point in a campaign, national polls mostly reflect what the pros call name ID, as in whether you've heard of a candidate or maybe a well-timed burst of media exposure. So a joker like Donald Trump, he would make the cut were he actually running, which I promise you he isn't, polls better than the sitting governor of Ohio, John Kasich, who'd be left out because he doesn't poll in the top 10. An announced candidate like Ben Carson looks like an unstoppable force compared with a credible governor like Louisiana's Bobby Jindal, who's yet to decide. There's just something inescapably undemocratic about allowing reflexive popularity, especially this early in a campaign, to define whose ideas get exposure and whose don't. Debates are supposed to drive the polls, not the other way around. Now, based on the next to last sentence that I read, it seems to me that the author of this article, Matt Bai, or Bay, it's B-A-I, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but it seems to me that he would not be supportive of having more than just two candidates in the main presidential debates, because he says that it's reflexive popularity this early in a campaign. He doesn't just say reflexive popularity that should not define who gets included. He just says it shouldn't be this early in the campaign. He says, I get that it's unwieldy to put 15 candidates on a stage, so why not just pick names out of a hat and divide the field into two groups that can debate on different nights? It would be a little unorthodox. Sure, but it's not like usual ways of doing things have been producing such thoughtful and riveting exchanges. If, though, you're Rick Santorum or one of the other footnotes of the moment, the more practical question is, why do you really want to be on the stage in the first place? In a field this crowded, you're only going to get to move your lips for 5 minutes, which is barely enough time to take one clear position on something like climate change or immigration, much less two positions that completely contradict each other in a single tortured answer, which is more what you'd expect. I once helped moderate a forum of 7 Democratic presidential candidates, he writes, and by the time it was over, half of them were just about throwing things at me because they had not gotten enough time to speak. Well, here's the problem, is that you're trying to give the front runners more time instead of, and I've participated in candidate forums with 9 other people, and everyone was given the same amount of time to answer questions. Everybody was given the same number of questions. What they do here with the presidential primary debates, where basically it's a news media organization that throws some Republicans and Democrats up on a stage, and they ask questions to and in manners to try to persuade people one way or the other. These debates are in no means fair. And I know that the word fair gets thrown around a lot, and different people think that it means different things. But what I'm saying here is the candidates are not getting equal treatment. And that's really what you should have in a presidential debate or any kind of debate, is equal treatment of the candidates. So you probably remember a couple of years ago when Ron Paul, during one of these Republican presidential things, got asked the question, electability, sir. They say you have none. How do you respond? That question would never have gotten asked to John McCain or the blowhard guy, Mitt Romney. That question never would have gotten asked to Mitt Romney, John McCain, or anybody else up on that stage. That question was asked because the people at the news entity, news in air quotes there, wanted people to not like Ron Paul, so they asked him pointed questions to try to get him to say something weird and strange and offbeat. So if you're going to have debates, then everybody that's on the ballot should be invited. Everybody should have the same questions and the same amount of time to answer the questions. Debates should be fair, meaning that candidates get treated equally, and then let the voters decide, assuming that you want voters deciding anything. This has been Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online, fppradio.com.